Hello.
Hello.
I'm here. So we got a couple of people. I changed the, let's see, where do I want to put this? This there. I changed the configuration this week so that I don't have to worry about letting people in, so that hopefully we don't have problems with people waiting to get in for too long. You should be able to get in right away as soon as you try. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's figure out how to do this. Okay, that's what I want to do. There we go, there's that. And okay, so do people see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
You can see the the presentation there. Okay, cool. All right. So today we're going to talk about the process of course setting. So the last two seminars, if you missed them, were doing beginner courses, and then we talked about the advanced and expert courses design process. So today we're going to talk about what actually is the process you go through in getting to the final, day of the event and having everything set. Okay. So there's course setting handout, which we've used before, and some of this information is on there. This is mostly this section of the handout down here at the bottom that says course setting procedures. That's kind of what I'm talking about today. Okay. So basically, the course setter has three parts of their job. The first is designing the course. The second is going out and checking the plan for the course. And the third is setting the course, actually putting out the controls or supervising that they get put out for the event. I put this out there every week just to make sure everybody's on the same page, that the goal of the course is to have good legs. It's about the problems between the controls and making the orienteer do route finding, as opposed to not just here's where the control is going to be. How do you, where is that? All right, so initial considerations. So somebody convinced you to course set, you thought this would be cool to do, you said, okay, great, I'm going to do it. So what do you need to do? What do you need to have in order to get ready to course set? The first thing you need is you need the map that you're going to course set on. The easiest way to do that, most clubs these days have their maps in some sort of software. So there's an OCAD file, depending upon your club, maybe it's something else, maybe it's an OOM file, but you want to get a copy of the map. If you don't have a way to use the software, then you need to get hard copies of the map, and you'll need plenty of them because you're going to want a different piece of paper for each different course. You're going to want a piece of paper to keep track of what the all controls map looks like. It's a lot of pieces of paper if you want to do it that way. I highly recommend that you use some kind of course setting software. We have, because it'll do a lot of things for you that are very difficult to do for yourself on paper. Course setting software will make sure that if a control is shared by more than one course, that it's definitely exactly the same circle on every map, that it's definitely the same control description on every map. If you move it a little bit for one course, it will move on all of the courses, so you don't have a problem with control over the fact that a shared control is being the same for all of the courses that share it. Also, the course setting software will easily keep track for you of what your all controls map looks like. And it'll tell you, which courses are sharing a control and what it looks like if you look at everything, so you can easily see if different controls are too close together or overlapping. It makes printing the control descriptions really easy because they're already in there in the software, and you just have to, click a button, say make control descriptions. It does it. In LAOC, we use a program called Condes. Condes is an expensive program, but it does allow a club to purchase a license for the club, which then anybody in the club can use. So you're allowed to, I think if you have a club license, it's allowed to be installed on like up to 30 different machines or something like that. So unless your club has more than 30 different people course setting, you should have plenty of use for it. Other options, OCAD has a course setting module that is, all it does is sets courses. You can't edit maps on it, you can't make maps on it, but you can load up an existing map and then put courses on it. A single user license for that is $25 a year. They also have some kind of team license that looks a lot more complicated than the way Condes does it in terms of how you use it with your team. And then if you're really looking for something easy and cheap, there's a program called Purple Pen that is freeware. Because I've mostly used Condes, that's what I know the most about. I've used Purple Pen a little bit, once or twice, on things that I was doing personally that weren't club things, because officially I can't use the club license to do something that's for my personal use or for something else. I haven't used OCAD's course setting modules, but I do have OCAD, so I could if I needed to. The last thing you need to get going with your design is the list of the control codes that you're going to be using. It's best if you can have that when you start, because as soon as you start using your course setting software, and putting controls on the map, it's going to ask you, well, what number is this control? And if you know the actual numbers you have available with the equipment you're going to use, you can put them in right then, and you won't need to change them later. If you don't have those numbers, you can just start putting in, start at 31, 32, whatever the software starts at, put those in, and then change the numbers later if you need to. So that's the basic stuff to get going with design. So this is my design process. This is what I do. Some of this are ideas I got from other people. Some of this is just what I've worked up over time. I can't say that I know, I'm sure there are other people who do other things. So you might hear different experiences from different people. Usually when I'm designing, I start with the white course. I start with the white course because it has the most constraints. It needs to stay on trails, which means the start and finish for it need to be related to the trail system. People don't want to walk that far for it. So by starting with the white course, I establish those constraints, and then I can build everything else around the start and finish that I chose for my white course. So you want to think about where your parking is going to be, leave space for the registrars to set up and have whatever other stuff you need for an arena, and figure out where your start and finish is going to be. So you want to start with the white for that. So, get your map out, get your software out, figure out, okay, here's where I want my white course to go. After I've designed my white course, I usually then go to the opposite end of the spectrum, and I design whatever is the longest course. Depending upon the event, that might be a blue, might be red, might be green, might be what we in Los Angeles call a long orange. Some of our maps don't lend themselves to truly expert orienteering, so sometimes the longest course that we put out is more orange in its technicality, but it's longer like a green. But whatever is the longest course, I do that next. The reason I do that is because I find it easier to cut back a course. It's easier for me to take a long course and find ways to cut things out and make it shorter than it is to take a shorter course and try to add stuff to it to make it longer. So that's why I usually go for my long course as the second thing I do. I start by looking for really good legs on the map. So I'll look for 2 or 3 places where I think, wow, this would make a really great problem. And I'll put that leg in, or a couple of those legs in, and then figure out some other little legs that will kind of get those connected. Because that way I know that at least I have a couple of really great legs in my map. even if not every single leg is perfect. Try to think about water stops early on. I usually don't do this. This is a step that I always mess up. It is very common for me to end up at the end of my design process, having vetted everything and saying, okay, I'm ready to go. And then suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about where people are going to stop to get water. And if you don't think about it early on, then you often end up with a situation where you're carting water out into the woods further than you should have to multiple controls in order to make sure that everybody has a water stop. If you think about it early on when you're designing, you can plan, you know, maybe just one or two places that all of your competitors definitely go through and that's close to a road or something like that to make it easy to get the water there. But if you wait until very late in the process, sometimes you kind of get stuck with a situation where getting the water out to competitors is more difficult than you want. Of course, nowadays people are talking about, are we even going to continue to have water stops? Because maybe that's not a good public health thing. So who knows what's going to happen with that. We might just start telling people carry your own water all the time. All right, after I've done my longest course, then I do whatever other expert courses or advanced courses I'm going to base on that. So I'll start with, so if it's an NRE, I'll start with my blue, and then I'll start going backwards from there. I'll say, okay, so what does the red course look like? What does the green course look like? And I'll base them on that blue course. Some things you have to think about. Number one, how many competitors am I expecting? If it's a fairly small local event right here locally, we don't usually get, you know, our typical events get maybe 100 to 150 people max during the during school season. During the summer, it's even less. It can be, you know, 50 to 75. And then when you're spreading those out over all those courses, you're talking about something where the number of people is small enough that I don't care very much about the extent to which they're sharing legs periodically. Obviously, I don't want everybody to just follow around the course all the time, but there are just some minor things you can do to mix people up. So if you're not expecting that many people, you can share a lot of controls. The more people are coming, the more courses you need, the more you might have different controls for different courses in order to avoid too much control load. One thing that is important is that anyone who's going to start at the same time should have a different first control. So if it's a really small meet, I might have, you know, my red and my green go to the same first control, but then I'll try to make a note to tell the start crew that they should not start red and green together. They should do red, then wait 2 minutes to start green. That should be just one start box. But if you give them a different first control, then you can start them at the same time. After the first control, it's okay if they go to the same second control. It's okay if they go to the same third control. That's fine. If it's, you know, if it's not too big a meet, you can have people meeting up and following the same legs for a while and then splitting back up again. So you can really use your initial design as something that that flows into other things. So I reduce the length as I'm going down of each course by deleting legs. And if I need to, I'll add some new controls in order to add bridges where I've deleted, you know, so maybe I've deleted something, but now that creates a leg that I don't really like. So maybe I'll add some new one in between there to make two new legs that are shorter, but that are good. And then I'll keep a lot of similar legs, but add forked controls. We talked about this a little bit last week. Let me show what I mean by that. So here's, well, this is just a green and a brown, but I think I want to show the Mount Pinos one. And I don't have the red and blue up. Let me find those. There. So, did that download? I don't know if it did or not, but we'll find out. Okay. Oops, get back here. Come on. There it is. Okay. So here's a blue course that I started with, right? So, you know, I started by designing this general idea, going up the hill, go down to this area. Number 4 was a water control, go through this way, cross this road. I had water stops along the road, so I want to make sure people were crossing the road to get to the water. Came back around, come this way. Then, so go to red. I want to reduce that somewhat. I'm willing to keep that same basic structure, but you want to, you know, maybe take out some stuff out here. So red does kind of the same thing, goes down here. You'll see it doesn't do exactly the same thing down here. I don't know if that control is also on blue. So it's got a different first control, same second control, but instead of the third control, it goes straight to here. And then it has a different control here than the blue did. It's got this same leg. It's got, I don't know if that's the same leg. It's got the same long leg. So this really good long leg that I looked at, it keeps that the same. And then it does the same to here, but now I've added these 2 controls here that are different. So whereas the blue had this longer loop out this way, the red did something shorter through here. So that was one of the ways I shortened the course. So I shortened the course a little bit in here. I shortened the course a little bit here. And then it has 4 controls there. I don't know that they're exactly the same. They are. So they're the same finish. So that's where I took out some stuff here. Not only did I take out distance here, but you'll notice there's a huge hill here. So one of the big changes I made between the blue and the red is that the blue goes down this hill and has to climb back up it, and the red doesn't have all that extra climb. So blue has 340 meters of climb, red has 290. Okay, and then from there, going down to the green course, let's make this smaller. That's brown. So here's green. So now, same basic structure, but now I've taken out that figure 8 loop idea in order to make things a little bit shorter. And again, this doesn't even go as far this way as red did. It doesn't go quite as far out this way. Red and blue both went out to here. Red and blue were out in here. So the green course has this other different nice long leg, but it doesn't have as much distance. And again, I've taken out some climb. And then going to the brown, same basic structure, but now we've left out this part of the map in order to reduce the length of the course. So there are similar legs on everything, but it's gradually shrinking and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Any questions about that? Nope. Okay. All right. So after I've got the advanced or expert courses done, then I'll move back and go to the yellow course. So, so I'll start with my white. I know where my start and finish is, and I'll try to do something that bumps that up to the right level for yellow, and as much as possible, trying to follow different routes than white. That can be difficult because you're already looking for, you know, for white, you need to follow those handrails, and yellow needs to also have some safe handrail routes between things. But especially at a local meet, it's not that uncommon for people to run white and to then want to also run yellow. So you don't want that to feel like they just did the same thing twice. You want there to be enough difference for that to be useful. So at this meet, I don't even remember what the difference was here, but so here's our white course. The white course kind of goes around this road and then up this trail. Okay, and the yellow course is more similar than you might like it. At least it starts on a little bit different thing here. It goes above this cliff instead of taking the road. So competitors might have stayed on the top of the cliff, or they probably went back down this way and took the road between 1 and 2. Now here, I don't recall if that control was on white or not. It is. So there's a similar control. But then once they go up this trail, they're not doing the same controls. They're doing the same trail, but they're looking at some different things off trail. And then they do something different. So this part of the course was different. The back part here was both different and definitely more technical, because you could come on this trail to hear this and find that, or you know, there's a little bit of encouragement to maybe go cross country to this trail. Find this trail. And here, same thing. If you wanted to take handrail all around, you'd be stuck doing this. So there was an encouragement to cross through the forest to get to this catching feature here to find the control. So that's probably more similar than you'd like, but that's kind of the idea of starting with the white and then doing something a little bit different. After that, then I end by doing the orange course. So I always do orange last. The main reason for this is that if I have found that if I go from white to yellow to orange, orange needs to be enough harder than white and yellow that I end up designing orange from scratch, and end up putting a lot of controls out there that are great for orange, but I'm not sure if I'll ever use them again. If I've already designed my expert courses above the orange level, then I sometimes can find some legs that I can put together that make a good orange leg by using either yellow or expert level controls, but coming at them from different directions so that now I have better catching features. I'm not really sure on this Mount Pinos how much of that I got or not. Right, so yellow has its own new course. So this was also a yellow control, but yellow was doing it by coming up the trail. Orange is using the trail simply as a catching feature and then getting there. This control, I think we added just for orange. I don't think that's on any other course there. So that was one that we added for orange. In fact, initially the design went from this 2 to 4, so it was pretty similar to the yellow leg. And then we decided that it would be nicer to add some distance and to add something a little bit more technical. And we ended up coming up with these legs that added, you know, these other catching features in here. I don't recall if 5 was on something else there. 6, I'm pretty sure, was on the brown course also. Let's see, so that was a brown control also. And then where's back to orange? This part I think was fairly unique to orange, the 7, 8, and 9. I don't believe those were on other courses. For the other courses, we got people further away from the trail. But so that's kind of the idea of how we got to the orange course. Was you get your all controls map up, look at everything you have out there, see what you can put together that's orange level, and where you can't put something together that's orange level, then add some other controls. So that's kind of the order I go in when I do that. Ooh, it's getting later than I thought. Okay, control descriptions. I usually wait to write descriptions. I don't usually write them while I'm designing. I wait and I write them when I'm in the woods, because inevitably when I get out there, I'll find that there's some different boulder that I like than the one I circled, or I circled a boulder, but I really like the reentrant better. So I usually just wait and don't try to write descriptions until I've actually gotten out into the woods. If you have someone else that you can share your courses with, a vetter or course consultant, anybody else who is willing to look at them, it's always nice to get some additional feedback before you go out there, because somebody else might look at it and give you some suggestions before you get into the tagging phase, and you can improve your courses. So then the next step is going out to the field and checking and tagging your course. For this, you need a copy of the map that shows where all the controls are, copies of the maps of the individual courses, or at the very least a course control listing. So I just took a picture of one of those, but I don't know if it's shown up in my photos yet. I don't have that up. A course control listing shows a list of the controls down one side, and then for each control it shows what the which courses it's on. So it's a way to look really quickly and say, okay, if I'm at control 116, oh, that's shared by red and blue and orange. Okay.
Hey, Claire.
Hey, yeah.
Can I ask you something before you get away from all those maps
Sure.
that you were showing the courses?
Yes.
Those were all finished maps, and they were all in purple. I wondered if the software let you do the course in the color of the course, like you'd see an orange route and then a green one and a red one, and you could sort of see them all together on one map.
Yes, there is at least a way to do that in the software. I'm not sure if there's a way to print it that way.
No, but while you're designing, you know, you're
while you're designing, there is a place in the software where you can do that, where you can click on something called Browse Courses, and you can bring up one course at a time, and it shows them in different colors. Yes.
I think that would be very useful. You're saying what you do, and I know you've got so much experience in your head. But if I were doing it, I'd like to look. You know, I think it's wonderful the way you do the long one first. But if you could keep that on the map while you're changing it to red and then to green, like, you know, I find it much easier.
Yeah, so I mean, usually what I actually do is I design the long one, and then the software lets you copy a course. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate that course, I'll rename it red, and then I'll shift it around to be what I want.
Okay, that's lovely.
Yeah, I'm gonna let my photos start up here and see if I can get that picture of the course control diagram to show you what that is. Yeah. So when that gets up, I'll try to show that. Sometimes it takes a while. Have something to write descriptions. So I usually print, if I haven't written my control descriptions yet, then the control description sheet in the software will just be blank. So what I'll do is I'll print out the all controls description sheet, and it's really just a whole bunch of blank boxes, and then I take that out in the field with me and fill it in as I go. It's also an easy way for me to keep track of what I've gotten to, because I can tell by which lines have a description on them which controls I visited and which ones I haven't. And then you need to have whatever you're going to tag with. So I usually use flagging tape with a Sharpie. I write on the tape some notes to keep track of what control it is. I know of at least one place, last year at Borrego, I think the rangers said they were required, they weren't supposed to hang anything, so they were supposed to use little pin flags as their tags. So it can vary with the place that you're in. Then make your way through the controls. Whoops, where did I go? Make your way through the controls in the direction of competitor travel. When you're tagging, vetting, whatever, it's important to try to go as closely as possible in the direction that you expect competitors to, because the course is about the legs. It's not just about the control site. And so you need to check the routes. If there's more than one route, you want to make sure that you get to those different places. Whether you do it exactly in the order that a competitor will do it in is not as important as that you get there and make sure that it's viable, that the things that look on the map like a place that a competitor will go are going to be useful. So let me see. Oh, it looks like my photos might be up now. That's my Flat Stanley photos. Okay. I just took these pictures, so they should be right here. Here they are. Okay. So this is a control course diagram. So the control numbers are down this side, and then see, it says, so here there was 2 browns, 2 greens for whatever, I'm not even sure what event this is. I just went looking for something for one of these diagrams. But so you'll see, so for example, control number 118 is number 4 on green, and it's number 4 on orange A. So there was not a lot of sharing of controls here. Here's some. Here, this was number 2 on orange B and on orange A, number 3 on orange B and orange A. Sometimes if you're sharing a lot of controls, so here's one where you've got 11, 13, 13, 11. So this was like a Go control that was probably shared by a whole bunch of courses. So as you're out, you can tell here, you see there's a red 7 here. So when I was out in the field, I decided to add this control to this course. It wasn't originally going to be on that course. I've added it there. So that's what that is. You can also see I was checking things off as I visited them to keep track of where I'd gone. And then this one. So here's a copy of what I was talking about. This, you see some of these have the descriptions in them, so I probably went out here more than one day. So the first day I went out, I did this stuff. The next day I went out and all these stuff that's written in here, that's how I figured out, you know, that was my control descriptions for those days. So when I printed this, it just has a bunch of empty. So here are the controls that I still hadn't gotten to as of when I finished using this piece of paper. So they're still all blank. So that's how I keep track of my control descriptions while I'm tagging. At each control site, you leave a tag. On the tag, I usually write LAOC, the date that the event is going to happen, and the control code. So you really want to try to know your control codes by this point, because you want that tag to have the code on it so that whoever sets the control can check that they're in the place that that code goes. You want to figure out your control description, make a note any hazards or any other notes you want to make sure competitors have. Tag the start and the finish. Get rid of this. I don't know how to get rid of that. Oops, go back. There it goes. There it's back. Go away. I don't know how to make it go away so you can read what's under there. Tag the start and the finish, and there it goes. If you're unavailable to place the controls, what you do should make it possible that somebody other than you can go out and set things. If they have the map, they should be able to go out and put a control there without you being there. So what you do in the field should be enough that somebody else can actually put the control out. If possible, have somebody else vet your course. If it's a ranking event, you really have to do that. Okay. So that person needs all control map. They need the course maps. They need control descriptions, and they check everything. So the vetter's job is not, again, it's about legs. The vetter's job is not just to check the control circle. They should check that the tags are in the circle. They should check the control description is correct. They should check that the routes make sense. They should check that the map is reasonable for that to support that control, and send all their notes to the course setter for all of that. It's the vetter is not just about going to the control circle and saying, oh yes, here's the tags in the circle. They should be checking all of that other stuff on the maps and the control descriptions. Then people need to place controls. If you've done the tagging well, anybody should be able to go out and place the control. All they got to do is find your tag, put the control there. The course setter should be the primary supervisor for this, but they might or might not be doing it themselves. For a larger meet, you might have a crew of people who help to place controls. For a smaller meet, it might just be you going out there to do it. So you'll need a bunch of copies of the all controls map, one for everybody who's going to go out, and they need descriptions to make sure that they're setting it properly. You need all the controls and stands. If you're using ePunch, be sure to program and sync those controls before they get out there. If you're using the LAOC equipment, there are instructions inside the ePunch equipment about how to do that. It's pretty easy these days. The way you sync controls now is pretty easy. If by any chance you happen to be doing the first event after daylight saving time, you might want to check with myself or Rich to make sure that we get the master changed to daylight saving time to be synced up. We had that problem just recently at Benelli, where the computer was on a different time than the ones in the woods, and it created some issues with the splits. And it seems to happen every time we have that time change. You go to the tag, you put the control out. If you don't find the tag, make sure the work gets double checked. If you put the tag yourself and you know, oh, that's exactly the branch I put it on, and you're sure you're in the right place, go ahead and set your control. But if you're setting a control for somebody else's course or something like that, and you don't find a tag, don't just assume you're in the right place. Okay, don't just say, oh, their tag must be wrong, there must be gone, this is it. You need to make sure you tell somebody that you didn't find the tag and get somebody else out there to check it and make sure that it's in the right place. Because it hasn't happened in a long time, but we've had issues before where someone got to a control, thought it was wrong, and moved it to the wrong place, and stuff like that. Take the tag down. People should be finding the control. Sometimes tags are hung pretty high, and you don't want people to see the tag before the control. And then put the control there. And if it's a water stop, put out the water in the cups. Other things the course setter is expected to do, at least in our club, prepare notes that would go on the website, right? So after you've tagged, you should be writing something up that says, hey, here's what people can expect from the course, what the terrain is like, any hazards there are going to be, anything special people need to know. Get that to whoever can post it on the website. For local events, we also typically post something at the event that says, here's what the courses are, how long they are, and has those basic hazard notes on it. Usually we ask the course setter to prepare and print that and bring it with them so that then the meet director can post it on site. Map printing varies. If you're doing it, if you don't get your maps ready early, then you'll probably be asked to print them yourself and bring them to the event site, and we'll just give you a number of how many to make for each course. If you're on top of things and you have the maps all ready to go, you know, a week or, you know, 4 to 5 days early, then you might be able to send them to the event coordinator, and that person will take care of getting them printed. On the day of the event, you need to make sure everything is out there in time for the first start. Usually that means going the day before the event to set at least the furthest out controls, and you probably want to have at most like the white course left to do on the morning of. Just try to keep some, you know, if you don't get it all done the day before, the closest in controls might wait till that morning, but it's really important that you're done in time for the first start. Handle any issues that come up during pre-runners or during the event. We're going to be done here pretty soon, I think. And afterwards, you're in charge of control pickup, so make sure you have plenty of all control maps. And as each person goes out, make a note of what they pick up, of what they're picking up, so that you don't send more than one person to pick up the same control, and give them a map with a clear note. So I usually have a bunch of all control maps. I have one that I keep as a master, and I'll circle for each person. Oh, here's what I sent that person to pick up, and put their name next to it. And then I'll take another all control map, circle it for them, and hand it to them and say to get everything within this circle. And then when you're done, yay, it's all done. Go out, get a beer or a candy bar or whatever you like. And oh, and make sure to get your little, as the course setter, I think you get this new ticket system, you get 2 little tickets that you can use to get a free event later. So make sure you get your tickets for volunteering. I think that's everything for this today. Any questions about that? I also wanted to ask, what other topics might people want covered? Because I've got a list of other ideas, but I also wanted to ask people if there's something specific that you would like me to cover in a course setting and or volunteer related seminar.
I'll start that off. What is it like? That was such a good course, Claire. But what is it like if you share? Because it's such a lot of work. Does it get confusing when 2 people are doing these things, setting the courses between them?
Well, Bruce and I have done a lot of that.
Oh.
Yeah, we've done, for a couple of years now, we've done Vasquez Rocks, where he will often do some of the easier courses and I'll do the advanced ones.
Yeah.
Or I think for the NRE, I did one day and he did one day.
Yeah, and then I vetted the one that you were showing the maps of.
Okay, yeah, that was the day I set, and he vetted. So the main thing is that, yeah, you need to send the maps back and forth a lot, to make sure that everybody's on the same page of what you're doing, that you're not, you know, if you're doing 2 days, you don't want to step on each other's toes, putting controls in the same place 2 days in a row. And if you're setting different courses for the same day, you want to make sure that you're getting what you're doing out there so that the other person could share controls if needed, and you don't have 2 controls too close to each other. So you want to make sure that you're sharing the same condes file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I I just heard today was that all the courses kind of mesh together. It's not just we've got a white, we've got an orange, we've got a yellow, and they're all independent, but they're actually a theme running through them.
Yeah. And well, one of the main things too is to try to get, I didn't put this in here, but I've heard this before too, that in terms of how everything was going the same direction, I've heard that that's better for wildlife as well. That
right.
as soon as
yeah.
people start running, the wildlife will start running away from the direction people are running and go find safe places to hang out. But if you have everybody running backwards from each other or different ways, then it causes more stress for the animals. It's harder for them to figure out where to go to get away from the people.
My goodness.
There'll be some of that anyway, because some people will just wander all over the map, but that's unavoidable.
Do either of you look at previous years like Vasquez and Mampinos? You know, to choose places or not?
I don't do it to choose control sites. I prefer to try to be as original as possible, although I've been to some of these places so many times and I'm not. What I do is I will typically look at it, the previous year's courses, to try to make sure that I'm not going in exactly the same direction and the same places as we just did a year ago. But I don't usually look really far back. I'll usually just look like 1 or 2 years back to make sure that it isn't too similar to what people just did the last time they were there.
Well, I think you should have encouraged 100 people to listen to this so we all understand how much work it is.
Yeah, I don't know this. Well, it's probably because it's Mother's Day that we have such a lower turnout this week. The last couple of weeks we've had much better turnouts, close to 20 people each week. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
By the way, Rex asked me if you were doing something like he did this week. He did a Zoom meeting. Sort of a chat, you know.
I didn't know Rex was doing one. I didn't see that.
Yeah, so you might. Sorry to get off the subject, but you might tell him or see him or something.
What was his topic?
It was no talk. It was happy hour.
Oh, okay.
Friday night happy hour.
Oh.
It was very funny because people couldn't get used to. It was very funny to begin with, and I did it to see if I could recognize everybody, and there were a lot. Although the younger people, that I had no idea who they were, and that was entertaining. That was certainly wasn't all the hard work you've put into this. This is marvelous.
So here's some ideas I had of other seminars I could do. So tell me if any of these tickle your fancy. So course setting flow, that's what I just did. We could talk specifically about what it's like to set sprints or middle distance, because so far I've pretty much covered classic. We can talk about some of the other formats that we sometimes do, how to set a Scoro, urban discovery, or different train activities. I think that probably what I'll try to do next week is how to use the course setting software. So we'll log on to the computer and bring up Condes and talk about how that works.
Are you still using Mac?
I use both. I use a Mac. Like right now I'm on a Mac. Mac's my main desktop, but I have a separate Windows laptop that I put most of my orienteering software on.
Okay.
Because it only runs in Windows. So I have a laptop that I use for OCAD, for Condes, for all that stuff.
Good.
Well, this is Jaime. I think these are great topics to cover. I'm very new to orienteering, though, so I'm just like riding the bus right now and just listening. I'm trying to understand everything right now. So, but I appreciate what you're doing.
So where are you from, Jaime? Are you in the LA area or from somewhere else?
I live in downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, great.
Yes. So.
Well, we're hoping we're going to be putting out this urban discovery event. And once I get the map set, hopefully I'm going to get that up this week, and down in Echo Park. We're going to do our usual Echo Park event, but instead of being a everybody come at a certain time and go. It's going to be, here's a week of time, download the map, go out there, run around, and send us back your answers, and then we'll tell you if you got them
It's great. Well, right.
And I live near Griffith Park, so I could take you on those maps when we could, you know, shout at each other from 6 feet or something.
Griffith Park, we officially have a date for in September, because we were scheduled for March, and when they canceled that due to everything shutting down, they rescheduled us for another date already. So hopefully that date holds, and we'll be doing an event there on September 20th. Okay, well, I got to get ready for my next one. If you're interested in 13 minutes, we're doing our skills seminar, which is today is covering distance estimation and terrain recognition and course review, if I can get through all that in the time we have.
Can you tell me why I can't get gallery view on this to see everybody?
I don't know. Is it maybe because I'm sharing my screen? If I stop sharing my screen, then can you get your gallery view?
Yes.
Yep, that does it.
That did it.
Oh, and let me
God,
put
I'm turning off my camera.
let me put the slides into the chat box.
Well, there's only 2 of you showing. Oh.
There. So there's the link to the slides. There's in the chat box now. So you can grab that really quick and
Switch to active speaker.
get the slides.
Okay, I'll put my, as there's only 2 of you, I'm going to put my video back on.
Oh.
I'm sliding down in bed.
It's too late because we've been looking at you for a half an hour already.
No, I had it turned off. You couldn't do, should you? Hell no. I know this is Bruce, and Bruce, you're in the shade. I can only see a sort of a black face.
Sorry, I should have turned the light on. There we go.
Well,
How's
next
that?
time. Oh, I can see your moustache. That's showing up nicely.
Nice to see you, Olive.
Yes, nice, Bruce. This was so good. This was so good. So interesting. I've never, ever done that kind of course setting. I have hung the, you know, I've gone out and hung the controls when I had the energy. I know Vasquez like the back of my hand, and Mount Pinos. Probably Griffith Park, but I'm finding everything's too far away. But I still follow it all online, you know. That's what you do when you're up at 80.
All right.
It wears you out, yeah. I'm looking forward to the one you're starting in a minute, Claire. Very much. That's my forte, teaching people.
All right.
You know, so I'm really looking into that. You
All
joining
right, well,
Bruce?
No, I've got other things to do. Honeydews for Mother's Day, so.
Oh, of course. Well,
thank you, Claire.
Claire and I aren't bothered, are we?
All right.
Good to keep the conversation going and definitely learning things from this.
Yeah,
I would have to say that I was picking the controls more than picking the legs, and this will definitely, you know, put me in a different mindset next time.
Have you had experience with other clubs, gone to different places?
I've been to a few.
Because it's real. I mean, one can get very tired of Vasquez and Alpinas, but you know, we're so far away. We're really isolated here, aren't we? And San Diego doesn't do so much now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But years ago, you could go to Arizona for like $1 a gallon.
Arizona still does some good stuff. Every February, they're doing like a whole week now.
Yeah.
For their festival.
Yeah.
But it's freezing in that campground. Okay.
Well, I have to end the meeting so that I can get ready for the next one. So
okay. All right.
See you guys in about 10 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.